Okay. Happy winter. It's winter time. Been going a little bit longer on my videos because YouTube lets me. So I used to have like a limit, and I don't know if that limit has been extended or whether there's no limit. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I'm not gonna waste time trying it. At least not right now. I may waste time later, but not now. Alright, so let's talk about some of this winter clothing. So, a lot of guys are like, oh yeah, balaclava and neck gaiters and hats and socks and scarves and everything, right? So, this is a Wiggy of Norway balaclava. Now, why is this unique? It's because it has mesh underwear style lining. Okay. And so it's like it's double thick. It's got the mesh lining, and then it's got this other shell, whatever this material is. Now, this particular balaclava has a nose covering. Okay, it has an opening there, which is for mouth and nose, but it has a covering here which protects the nose from frostbite. Right, also the mouth, but so you need to have some place for that air to escape. Right, so if you're huffing and puffing, you don't want it all in your eyeball area, right? So this has two eyes. These are a little bit small, a little bit, but you're trying to protect yourself, right? So it's the big Wiggy of Norway patch. Expedition heritage since 1887. So the Norwegians are the ones who provided Ed Hillary and Tenzing Norgay with their underwear for Mount Everest. So when they summited on Mount Everest, they were wearing mesh underwear. And I actually have a mesh underwear top on. It's my very first layer right now. So I've got 3 layers on. I've got the mesh, and then I've got 100% wool long sleeve shirt, and then I have this 100% wool Henley sweater, it's got 4 buttons, and then I've got this 100% wool neck gaiter. This is from Ireland. Right. So, yeah. And then something like this I will just normally wear for sleeping. Okay, sleeping in a super cold environment. A lot of times I've got my head out of the bag. The thing is that if you keep your head in the bag all the time, you're probably just going to build up condensation in there and get wetness in your bag, that you don't want. If you have a Wiggy's bag, you don't have to worry about that because, well, the lamellite material in a Wiggy's bag wicks that moisture out of the bag anyway. Now I have a Wiggy's Antarctica bag with this secondary bag over the top. It's big. It's not for backpacking. Okay, it's not for that type of situation. It's for like an expedition or having it your cabin in the wilderness if you're going to be like elk hunting or something like that, and you're going to have a base camp, either a cabin or you're going to have a canvas wall tent with the, you know, you know what I'm saying? As a base camp. So if you're gonna have a base camp, you got a pulk, sled, toboggan. You know, you're hauling stuff in, either yourself or you're hauling stuff in by your dogs if you've got sled dogs. You know, that's what that type of a sleeping bag's for. That sleeping bag is good for -80 Fahrenheit. I've gotten in it before and had to get out because it was so hot. It was like I was being roasted, you know. It was that warm, and that was in the dead of winter, right? That was in the dead of winter. So that was a short test just in case, you know, there was some kind of really odd winter where it got super cold. You know, I'm prepared for it. So I've got other sleeping bags, you know, that I've used for super cold environments, but you know, that one I got is an end of the world scenario type sleeping bag. Absolutely no fire or anything. Now the thing about that sleeping bag is, or any sleeping bag, I'll tell you this: if you have a heavy wool blanket, okay, like a Hudson's Bay or Pendleton or anything like that, you get a big one. You know, queen size, full size, king size, that range right there. You could drape that on the outside of the bag, okay, and you'll stay warmer, right? You'll stay warmer. It's that technique is one that I've used. Another thing is you can obviously bring you can bring your wool clothes with you into your bag. You know, if you can zip it shut, right? You don't have to use any heavy wool stuff in your bag. You know, you can use something like this scarf. Now, this is a 100% wool scarf, right? You can bring this in as just an extra layer into your sleeping bag, right? Extra layer. You know, just get in there and be warm. You know, I've found that the warmer you are, the less you want to go to the bathroom. The less you want to the less you want to go pee and evacuate that excess fluid. The warmer you sleep, the less you want to go pee at night. That is found through my scientific method. That means trying it. Right? So this is a weather wool neck gaiter. I got this a few years ago. I did a review on it, and I talked about how I think it's worth about half of what they charge, and I still stand behind that. I think that it's quite a bit too much money for what it is. It's like $80-90 for this thing. Now it's not a terrible neck gaiter, but I don't remember everything I said, but it's not as good as it should be. It should be about twice as thick as it is, and it, you know, it just stretches out too easy, really. You know, I don't want to use this as a leg gaiter. I got this as a neck gaiter, but I still got it in my kit. You know, it is good, but it's not worth $80. It's worth about $40. Now this gaiter I'm wearing, it's great. This one, it's $50. It's hand woven. It's a it's a chunky knit compared to that knit, okay? And, you know, I can get myself in here and I don't feel constrained. I don't have any cold spots against my body, because that's one thing. It, if you got something tight against your body, it's these waist gathering devices and some of these coats. No. You want a hem gathering, you know, pull it up tight at the bottom, gather it up tight at the very bottom of the garment, you know, not tight, but just enough to like hold it against your other clothing, and that's it. The stuff up here in the waist, you tighten that up against your waist, it's just going to create a cold spot around your waist. You don't want that. I know you don't look as fashionable, you know, if you leave it undone. You look more fat and puffy and whatever, but the point is not a fashion show, it's to keep warm, right? So you want the insulating air between the insulation and your body. You want that dead air space to heat up, and the insulation mitigates the amount of heat that leaves that garment, right? Okay, now this thing here is tucked in to this. Okay, it's I can still feel it there. Okay, it goes to right there. So it's right there, and it's tucked in all the way around. Now, this is nice and loose. I'm warm, real warm. This is insulating me like crazy. And I'm going to tell you something, and I want some of you guys to spread this around, because there is this rumor, unfounded chatter on the internet that says, oh, covering your head and neck doesn't keep you warmer. I just want to slap those people upside the head, because the fact is that you do stay warmer insulating your neck and your head. A lot of heat escapes through the neck and the head. It's a fact. It's, you know what? Stop relying on what numbnut people say and listen to facts, okay? U.S. Army at Natick in Massachusetts is a research place, right? Where they do research. Well, they did a lot of research on cold weather stuff, you know, and they proved that yes, you do have a lot of heat escape from the head and the neck. Okay, a lot, not a little bit, a lot. Let me tell you something. I have done my own research, my own experimentations. In brutal cold, I have gone out with just this, okay, just this type of garments, not super heavy coats, not a down parka, not a wool, heavy wool Mackinaw coat, nothing like that, but with just, you know, just some thin layers of wool, and the neck properly insulated, and a wool hat, okay, a wool hat. And I was completely warm at, you know, 0 Fahrenheit, right? 0 to 10 Fahrenheit. I was still warm. Of course, that's me walking and doing stuff. And, you know, maybe a little gust of wind here and there, not sustained. I'm not talking about extreme conditions. I'm talking about, you know, winter conditions where it's between 0 Fahrenheit, okay, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing. That's where ice freezes. You know, water becomes ice at 32 Fahrenheit. So I'm talking about 0 Fahrenheit. Drop 32 more degrees and you get to 0, right? Or drop 22 more degrees and you'll get to 10, right? So between 0 and 10 Fahrenheit, I was still fine, right? But if I took this gaiter off, let's just say I just took the gaiter off, right? I would be ready to like go back in the house in a few minutes. Why? Because I'm losing all my heat through my neck. If I would take the neck gaiter and the hat off, I would only be outside for a couple minutes and I'd be like, forget this, I'm going to go get some more on. I'm going to get some more protection on. Some more insulation. Yeah. So this is your core. Your core heats everything. Everything goes through your blood, through your legs and your arms. That's why your hands are either cold or they're comfortable, or your feet are either cold or they're comfortable. Because if you do not have your extremities insulated, even if you have good gloves on or if you have good footwear on, your footwear is not going to protect you, because all of the heat that was sent that way to heat your feet up got cold on the way because you didn't have proper insulation on your legs. And the same thing goes for your hands. I've talked about this numerous times. People need to listen up, right? There's a lot of people out there that need to listen up. There's a lot of young guys out there that think, that old guy don't know crap. He's full of it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't like him. I don't like him because he's outspoken or whatever. You know what? Knowledge is cheap. If you have it, knowledge is cheap. If you don't have the knowledge, then it's expensive generally. You have to go out and buy the knowledge, go into schools and whatnot. But I already have the knowledge, and I'm giving it away. I'm not sending you to some school to pay $1,000 for me to tell you, yeah, do this. Okay? So many people out there, they're so spoiled by YouTube. They just go out there and they grab knowledge. Years ago before YouTube, you didn't get knowledge for free by getting your fingers on the typewriter or on the keyboard and looking at a screen. You didn't get knowledge that way. You got knowledge two ways. You either went in the military and you got knowledge, or you went out and you got with somebody who was an outdoors person and you got knowledge and things like that. You didn't just look it up in your spare time at home by your fireplace, sitting there drinking your cafe soy decaf low coffee or whatever it was, right? Yeah, that's not the way. No. You had to go out and you had to earn the knowledge. You had to get it. You had to go out and take it. You had to put in your work to get it, right? Many a time I've been on skis or snowshoes in the backcountry in the dead of winter, 30, 40, 50 below. Especially when I was a kid out there hunting, and trapping, because my brother, once we got our first shotguns when we were kids, we were little. We had guns. We didn't go around, doing bad things. We went out and we, hunted rabbits, and we used to trap animals. We'd trap rabbit, we'd trap raccoon, we would hunt squirrel, all the usual suspects, we did all that stuff. But you learn how to deal with things. You learn what works and what doesn't work. At one time that I fell through the ice into a freezing stream, and I was wearing wool. Thank God, because if I hadn't have been wearing wool, I would have probably just froze to death, froze half to death, uh, frostbite, you know, the whole 9 yards. I probably would have had it all by the time I got home, because we had hiked in. Luckily, my brother was with me and he helped me get out, you know. Uh, but we used to carry sharp sticks with us, and I talked about this before. But you take a piece of clothesline. It's just a cheap good old boy way of doing things. But you take a piece of clothesline, you know, long enough to go all the way through both sleeves of your jacket. It goes around your back, and then you tie one end onto a sharp stick, and another to a sharp stick, and then when you gotta crawl out of a frozen river or stream or a pond or a lake or something, you just jam those sticks into the ice. You know, it's got to be a good hardwood, you know, shaved down to a point, and then you just drag yourself out, you know. Yeah, so I can remember those days. I used to carry that stuff with me, and we had a few incidents, but you know, Dad never told Mom. He knew that I had fell through the ice. You know, she never got wind of it. Dude, you know, things happen. It's the way it is. You know, I got more stuff over here to talk about. I guess we'll come back in another video. I got more clothing there. We'll talk about it. Alright, come back third video. See you there.